Hello, eighth grade science teachers. Welcome to this hopefully not too long curriculum update video. I'm just going to be walking through the various updates I've made this summer. A lot of things to help out your lessons planning and all that. So I want to show you guys all that I've done and how to best utilize it. This will kind of stand in instead of doing all the training videos. You can just get this one update video and kind of see all the new stuff that's available. I want to talk about how I see you using it to create more engaging and diverse lessons. So I'm going to start off. This is the CIPD Hub. This is one way that you can access the curriculum. I'll put a link to this in the description and also show you later how to access it through the curriculum map. You can also get all my curriculum map information through the Teachers Lounge, which most people use. This I'll try to update every once in a while with new information about our district and what's going on in the sciences. But when you come down to the bottom, these are your links to not only your training video playlist, which I have videos over each component of the curriculum and the resource, but also this picture is a link to your curriculum scope and sequence. So once we get logged on, you'll see the main update to the scope and sequence. It's mainly cosmetic updates on our scope and sequences. Adding in this color. It's a bit more eye-catching, a bit more pleasing. But also this color, so quarter one, it's themed green. All of the curriculum map is also themed green. Once you go over to quarter two, now that's themed orange throughout the curriculum map. So it kind of has a different feel as you transition from one unit to the next. And hopefully that'll kind of help teachers just kind of like, all right, I'm in something new and it's not doesn't look exactly the same as you go throughout the year, but it's mainly just cosmetic. All the other information that's here, it's the same as always. The idea for the scope and sequence is let you see the whole year, plan out your unit. How do these ideas connect? How can I bring back old conversations? All of that. There are some updates down here. I'm going to talk about the performance tasks as I go through my the curriculum map. So we'll talk about these, but these will be a real big enhancement to some of the assessments that you can do with kids. So I'll talk about those and show you that. But this is the old ones, and I'm slowly updating those, and I'll have those done for you guys. And then the quarter assessments, I'll keep the same tests as last year because I'm pulling from the resource. I just have to go through and update, maybe switch a few questions, add something better, but they'll mainly be the same. So that's why they're highlighted there. So again, this is just for your whole year planning or unit planning, just to get an idea of what's going on. If you like to print out the curriculum resources, this would print out on one page, which is nice, but the font is really small. So if you double click this up at the top, if you didn't know, you can get a larger version. This one, if printed out, would give you a front and back. But the font's much larger, much easier to read. So page one, page two. So whatever it is that you would like to use for your curriculum planning, you have that available to you. We're going to go ahead and jump into the curriculum map where most of the updates are. And I'll show you that. So as our curriculum landing page loads up, there's a few updates on this first page I want to highlight for you guys. The first one right up the top, got the YouTube logo. If you click on that, that'll take you to my playlist that has all my training videos on each of these components. Some of them will look slightly outdated because they don't have the new stuff on it, but what I talk about and how to use it is still relevant. So if you want to hear how I think each of these components should be used for your planning, those videos are there. This video will also be in that playlist. The curriculum landing page, this is designed for planning out the whole unit. It gives you teacher background knowledge if this isn't your strong suit. So we're talking about how objects move and collide. You've got a lot of earth, space, and physical standards. Maybe you're more of a life science person. So if you need a refresher, those can help you out. The idea is also your unit should have bookends. You want to introduce some idea that's going to help students latch on to something as they learn all the different concepts. So this one is about an impact crater that happened in Antarctica. Something about, I believe there's something about gravity differences. But you can introduce this idea, and students don't quite have an explanation. But the idea being that as they go through and learn all these other ideas, they'll come back to this and they'll be able to answer questions a lot more clearly and have a better understanding of what's going on. So typically the unit project kind of ties back into this idea. Sometimes it's a little bit different, but those are kind of used to bookend your unit. And so therefore, as you guys know, there are the unit project posters. I gave these out to teachers last year, laminated version. Hopefully those are still out there. But this will help remind students as they keep coming into class, they see this poster, like, that's why we're learning all this. There's that question we want to answer. So that way, when you come back to it at the end, they haven't forgotten about it. So that's the idea behind those. Keep it all relevant as you go through your unit. And then some district resources. I've updated these links for you guys. This is, if you click on this image, that will take you to that first page I was on, the CIPD Hub. And so you can use that to access those, that page. All right, I want to jump down now to where most of the updates are now located at, which is on our suggested pacing guide. The first thing, your student learning objectives. I got some feedback from a teacher. So these are now numbered. So this one has 6. And you'll notice that now when you come down to the activities, and you're in the Explore section, I've highlighted what objectives are tied to these activities. So the activities found here are tied to objectives 1 and 3. The activities in this section are tied to these objectives. So that way, as you're using things from here, you can just come up and be like, these are the objectives they address. Helps with your lesson planning. And I know most schools require you to have an objective on board. I think you'll find that pretty useful. Coming down, we're just going to start from the left and work our way right. I added these in midway through the year. I'm not sure if everybody saw them, but these are YouTube video links that tie directly to the topics being taught in that week. So frames of reference are brought up in conversation this week right here. And so there's a nice Khan Academy video that talks about that. These videos, I could see you using parts of them for a section in a lesson. If it's a short video, you could play the whole thing. Or, Edpuzzle that would allow pauses and questions to be asked. Or if you're out for a day, it's a good fill-in for a lesson that the sub can just play the video and then assign whatever work it is. I want you guys to be creative with those. They're not designed just to be, all right, just play the video. Use it creatively. And I think they'll be a helpful resource for you and the students. As you move over to the right, we have our column that's our lab activities and virtual activities. Those are now going to be easy to identify because any lab that utilizes a material, you're going to use this, it's going to have this icon on it. And anything that uses a virtual is going to have this icon. So as you come down, you can see, okay, these are all virtual activities. This one requires me to get some materials out. And if you're wondering what this star is, I've started work on grade 6 and 7. I haven't quite made it to 8th grade, but I've been creating videos that go along with the Discovery Ed Labs, where I pull out the materials, I show you how it all works, give you suggestions. And so as I get those done, I will add that link to the icons. You'll be able to just click here, my video will pop up, and you can access that as well. If it's got a star, it means I don't have the video done yet. It's a note to me, got to get that done. So I'll work on those. But you'll also notice that I now have gizmos directly linked into here. If you need training on gizmos, I do have a video up. Actually, I think it was on my CIPD Hub. That first page I was at, and there's a gizmo training video. It's on my YouTube channel. So if gizmos is new to you, you can go access that. And I've also have, let me see if I can find one. There are, okay, none in Unit 1, but I have PhET activities linked as well. If you don't know about PhET, I think I have a video on that as well. But those are now linked directly into the curriculum, so you don't have to go searching for a gizmo that ties into these. It's just, hey, this week, this ties in really well to these topics. And so now it's just there and available for you. So hopefully you find that useful. All right. As we come over to the actual activities from Discovery Ed, I have an update here. The way that you'll want to use this, and I'll open it up in just a second, as you are using Discovery Ed for your lessons, students are asked a question in activity 1. They don't know all the information needed to effectively answer that question. So it's sort of just like, hey, what do you think right now? And then the point is, as they go through and they learn all of this, they've now gathered a lot of evidence to help answer that question again. So the explain question at the very end goes back to that exact same question, and students are expected to write a much more thorough response using the CER method, claim, evidence, reasoning. However, sometimes these concepts students will forget, what it was they're trying to answer. And so they get there and they're like, well, I don't really know why. They kind of forget. Discovery Ed had these main idea graphic organizers where students would write down the question. And then as they go through and learn, they're writing down their evidence, supporting it with reasonings. So that way, when they do get to the writing component, they can just pull that out, pull that information that they've taken notes on to help answer that question, which gives them a much more thorough answer. The problem with their graphic organizer was it was the same one for every unit, every concept, and it was kind of dull and boring. So what I've done is I've created one for each unit, and it matches the theme. So since this is about space and meteorite impact, it's a bit more themed that way. And you still have your main idea. What are my supporting details? Spots for more notes on the back. So this keeps that idea. It's a bit more engaging for the students. You can have this folded up in notebooks. If you do binders, this can be 3-hole punched into a binder. They can keep taking notes. And then when they get to the end, they have something back to reference to give them something to write about. Maybe you're looking at this and you may want to make a few tweaks to it. That's totally fine. I have also added, so that's where that is down here. That takes you to the original Canva design. If you just make a copy, then you have your own version. You can make some edits, tweak it to your own classroom, whatever it is that you want. So then they have something to take notes on as they go through different activities. So I'm excited to see what you guys do with that as you go throughout the year. When you're using Discovery Ed, this is how I utilize the activities. I don't find it that effective to sit there and go, okay, we're on activity 5 today. Now we're doing activity 6. Now we're doing activity 7. Sometimes it works out that way. But what I think is good is taking a look at a block of activities and kind of seeing what's there. Sometimes there's a video or some text, some data, a lab. As you can see, activity 6 incorporates a virtual lab. And so now I'm going to look at all that and I'm going to kind of like, all right, what makes sense for a lesson to me? Do I want to do stations where each activity kind of has a different station where students work on something? Does it make sense to assign one of these online or have students work out of the book? So you can utilize those different ideas to create a lesson that makes more sense to you. I oftentimes pull the information off and create my own worksheet if it makes sense to. Or sometimes I like the activity in the book. We'll do that in the book. And the books are great because they're perforated pages. You can even have the kids tear those out so they can turn it in. So there's all sorts of different ways. And now that I'm just kind of planning my own lesson, now I can integrate, hey, I'm going to pull this video in for part of that. I'm going to have them do this lab. It's not just I'm going to go through all the activities one after another. I'm building a cohesive lesson with my style that works with my students. And that's how you want to plan out those lessons. And then they learn all of that. They do the explain question like we talked about, and you come down to the evaluate. And we'll talk about this in a second. But you'll want to kind of assess the student's learning. And there's a few ways to do that. You could create your own quiz. I would suggest pulling some questions from the practice and the concept assessment. You can just use the concept assessment. And before, the problem with that was that you may not have taught every single thing from Discovery Ed. And so the concept assessment would have questions on it you didn't teach. They're coming out with an update now in August that you will now be able to pick and choose the questions. So that way this will better reflect what you taught because you can just get rid of questions you didn't cover. And now you'll have a better concept assessment, get you some quick data. The other good thing about these is when students get a question wrong, once they're finished, it goes back and shows them, hey, you got this wrong. Watch this short clip to understand why, or go to this activity, or here's a picture that helps explain. I don't think it does it for every question, but for a lot of them, it does that. And that gives students their own process for relearning to make sure that when they come back on the unit or the district quarter test, they'll have a better understanding. Because this is where I pull those questions from, or from the practice and the concept. So feel free to utilize that to your advantage. All right. One of the last updates, we got the performance assessment. These used to be in Discovery Ed, and sometimes they had the wrong answers. Sometimes they were in a bad format that didn't make sense to assign to students. But it was a good idea because what it is, hey, you learned all this stuff about this topic. Can you take that knowledge and apply it in this scenario that's similar, but we didn't talk about specifically, which is kind of like what the MAP test is like. And so I really want teachers to start utilizing these to practice a MAP style question. It's just how it was set up on Discovery Ed wasn't effective. So I've actually pulled the information out, and now it is on Google Docs. And I'll be finishing the rest of the year for the performance assessments. And these are great because they have text, they have videos. So if you're doing this digitally, they can just click the link for the video. If you print it out, they can scan the QR code on their phone or computer. So then they read the text. All right, watch this video. And then they have different types of questions. This one is a tech enhanced question, similar to the map. They're going to drag and drop their arrows into the different spots. And then they have to actually write a constructed response to explain their reasoning. That's also a huge part of the MAP test. The data shows constructed response was the biggest chunk of the test, and we didn't perform very well. So we want students to practice writing out their logic, their reasoning. And so that's what these spaces are available for. You got more of those. They are looking at graphs and data. They have drag and drop, tech enhanced questions. So there's different ones for each one. They have multiple select, multiple choice, constructed response, tech enhanced. You got data, videos, tables, all of it. So these are a really good resource for one, assessing students on their learning, but also really practicing those map type things. And then the huge benefit of now they're on Google Docs is, let's say that it's not perfect how you would use it. You want to make some tweaks, cut out a part, whatever it is. You can just go to File, make a copy, and you can make your own edits to enhance this more to what your students have learned. And so hopefully that's going to help you plan and your students learn better in preparation for the MAP. With you being 8th grade teachers, so your students are actually tested, when I complete all these performance assessments, because they have them for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, what I'm going to do is add those into the MAP prep document where it's assigned by standard, different performance assessments. And so when you get into your review period for the MAP, then you'll have all these performance assessments aligned to standards if you need students to review certain ideas. And so this will be a good way for them to practice and refresh on all those things. And I really hope that helps us with our scores. So there's at least one of those per concept. So you'll see if you're on the next concept, this one actually has 2. So some of them have multiple. And then as you get to the end of the unit, there's also a unit performance assessment. It's the same style, still has videos, tech enhanced questions, all of that same stuff. It's just going to cover a slightly longer range of topics because it goes across the whole unit. But those are available to you as well. So there's more than you could actually probably use in your normal year. So there'll be plenty to choose from at the end of the year for prepping for the MAP test. So I think those will be useful. And then just a quick reminder, hey, don't forget to go back to that anchoring phenomena, do the project. Can we now answer that scenario, whatever the unit scenario was, now that you've learned all this stuff? And that kind of ties your unit into a nice bow. Students go away understanding an idea that they didn't before. And then just a little ease of life. You can jump to the next curriculum map just there at the bottom. You can always go back to the scope and sequence, but I felt that was a nice little touch to make navigation just a little bit quicker. Okay, that is all the updates. Now, if you are new to teaching or you want to do something more creative this year using our resources, feel free to reach out to me. I can work with just you. I can work with your team, instructional coach. We can set up a lesson planning session or model lesson, anything like that. Let me know. Happy to help. But until then, I will see you guys in another video. Bye.